has happened in the motorcade route.
This is the day many historians and conspiracy theorists have waited 5 decades for.
However, no big bombshell news is expected to come from this last trove of secret files.
The Guardian reports the documents contain no smoking gun.
Those who are expecting to see a bombshell about the assassination are likely to be very disappointed.
So you just heard most of the consensus seems to be nothing real major expected to be discovered in these documents.
For me, this started when we were eating at a cafe. I overheard the news broadcast that was on the TV in the background. I could hear what they were saying, and they kept saying things like, this isn't likely to change the narrative. This won't change the official conclusion, but here's the new documents.
Because when there's nothing to see, I definitely keep things classified for 25 years for absolutely no reason at all. Makes a lot of sense.
All right, I know all of you think I did something. I didn't do it, but I promise to tell you in 25 years.
More than 50 years after that tragic day in Dallas, there's still no smoking gun.
And then like the very next day, they were able to say, nope, there's nothing in here. We looked through all millions of pages. We know, absolutely, there was nothing.
Except for that .26 caliber rifle found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository.
This is the conclusion I've come to after literally ignoring a pile of evidence accumulated over 50 years.
A rifle seen here in the hands of its owner, Lee Harvey Oswald.
You know, every person during Cold War likes to definitely threaten the president and then take a picture of themselves holding a gun in their backyard with some communist literature.
And I just zeroed in on the key words for repeating over and over the same terms. Why? Apparently to brainwash people and remind them that Oswald's the assassin, even though he was never tried or investigated. He's the assassin.
More than 50 years after his tragic death, the endless fascination with President John F. Kennedy lives on. And now the public could soon learn new details about his killer.
People are so excited about this. Some think that they will confirm Lee Harvey Oswald was indeed the lone assassin.
That's what people think, really? They think that they waited 25 years so they could confirm what the Warren Commission already said?
We were all waiting just decades to be told the same dumb fake story.
An overwhelming amount of evidence still points to the fact that Oswald pulled the trigger that day.
Files mostly from the CIA and FBI that could clarify some unanswered questions about the assassin Lee Harvey Oswald.
To remind them that there's nothing to see here, there's nothing to find in the CIA, there's no conclusion, nothing has ever come to light to contradict the official story. Oh, other than Congress's own investigation under the House Assassinations Committee, which found a 95% probable conspiracy based on the acoustic forensic evidence. Oops.
When I got and saw the documents and started to go through them last night, it became increasingly clear it was a nothing burger.
This, of course, is the author of Nothing Burger.
The 650-page book that upholds the Warren Commission's findings after wasting your time for 650 pages.
It became increasingly clear it was a nothing burger.
I read 2 documents. I was like, this doesn't change the book I already wrote.
Among the thousands of classified documents finally unsealed last night by the National Archives, there is nothing that would contradict the central finding of the Warren Commission.
There's nothing that'll contradict the official story that we're willing to show you and broadcast.
Oswald alone murdered America's 35th president.
Is a statement I made with my mouth, but I have nothing to back it up with.
Oswald alone murdered America's 35th president.
Alan Dulles on the Warren Commission already told us what we don't know and don't need to know, that it was...
But he was definitely a danger to the president. That's why they added him to the list of dangers to the president on the day he supposedly shot the president.
Secret Service was apparently never told Lee Harvey Oswald might be a danger to the president, even though the CIA and FBI had him under surveillance for months as a potential communist threat.
Because he was such a danger and they'd been following him for so long, just like all these other patsies, that they definitely wanted to let everyone know what a danger he was by adding him to the danger list on the day of his assassination.
Oswald was added to the list of threats to the president November 22nd, 1963.
Do you ever think it's very interesting that every single one of these people who end up being these infamous killers, they were all tailed by the CIA and FBI for sometimes years leading up to this offense, and yet never are they ever stopped before they do it. Ever.
Now, the Warren Commission in 1964 found Oswald had been the lone gunman. Another congressional probe in 1979 found no evidence to support a theory that the CIA had been involved.
That no evidence included the House Assassinations Committee, which found a 95% probable conspiracy, which somehow this newscaster found no time to mention.
Conspiracy theories will not end.
This trove of files will only serve to feed the conspiracy theories.
In fact, even if they had released every single document, it wouldn't have convinced anybody who's determined to believe in conspiracy.
Despite more than 50 years of calling the exterminator, those pesky conspiracy theorists still won't go away. Admittedly, this has nothing to do with the new documents. It's all about the continuing war against conspiracy theorists and those who continue to spout the official line, mainly because they're good at reading cue cards and teleprompters, who are still trying to drown out the voices saying, hey, this doesn't add up. Obviously, they've been lying. Look at the 10,000 oddities and anomalies and pieces of evidence that show the story makes no sense. Well, the best way to drown those people out is to keep saying things like, the assassin Oswald, there's nothing to see here. There's no smoking gun except the one found with the Mannlicher Carcano on the 6th floor of the book depository, as told to you over 50 years ago.
A rifle seen here in the hands of its owner, Lee Harvey Oswald.
For that .26 caliber rifle found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository.
Oswald pulled the trigger that day.
About the assassin Lee Harvey Oswald, his killer.
I read like another 3 pages, like, that's what I thought, nothing here.
And they're even talking about how they've thrown a bunch of other files in here that they don't even know why they're in there.
What does this have to do with the investigation of the assassin of JFK? Because I don't quite get why this document would have been in there with that.
Exactly. That's one of the many questions we have tonight, Anderson. Considering the document has no mention of John F. Kennedy or his assassination.
That have nothing to do with JFK's assassination at all. Stuff like the Clintons going on a trip to China.
What was strange about the JFK archives records is that they included Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, even travel by President and Mrs. Clinton to China in the latter stages of his second administration. There are all kinds of things in here. They're only tangentially related to the JFK assassination, if at all.
It's like they just swept a bunch of files in there, like, oh, well, we got to release something. It's been 25 years. Just dump a bunch of extra random crap in there. We'll just give that to them. And you have to also love how they put that one memo in there with the Richard Helms testimony, which they cut off right when he's deposed about whether or not Oswald has any ties to the CIA.
Conspiracy theories have abounded that Oswald was actually a CIA agent or informant.
One memo that does address whether or not Oswald was, as evidence clearly indicates, some kind of CIA agent or informant was mysteriously cut off at the bottom of the document, not even answering with a bullshit answer.
In one of the documents, former CIA Director Richard Helms is asked in 1975, is there any information involved with the assassination of President Kennedy which in any way shows that Lee Harvey Oswald was in some way a CIA agent or an agent? But the document ends there.
I also gotta love how Trump jumps out there and says that he's doing this to put all the conspiracy theories to rest.
I am doing this for reasons of full disclosure, transparency, and in order to put any and all conspiracy theories to rest.
Even though this is based on a law from 1992, any president that was in there at this time would have been doing this. It isn't his thing that he's doing.
Meanwhile, the Warren Commission's Arlen inspector already referred us to the scene of flying animated bullets from Roger Rabbit. More than 50 years later, official sources still will not acknowledge the basic forensics of the shots that appear to come from the front rather than the back.
Aaron, you don't seem to understand. They don't need the forensic evidence of the actual trajectory of bullets and the sounds of those bullets coming from places that were not the book depository, because they have a picture of him with the gun in his backyard. And you gotta even love, too, that Sabato guy, which pretty much everybody interviewed. He was just the interview hoe of the week for every channel.
He was a misfit and a sociopath who defected to the Soviet Union.
Comes on there and says, well, I really hope that nobody thinks that the rogue actions of the CIA and FBI from the 60s are in any way indicative of the way they could possibly behave today.
I hope that people won't assume that the rogue methods used by the CIA and even the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover back in the 60s are somehow indicative of what's happening today.
Every single one of these people that they have interviewed on all of these channels, most of them making rounds on multiple channels, are all people who either believe the Warren Commission, have written books upholding the Warren Commission.
Our own Tom Fitzgerald spoke with the legendary Secret Service agent who climbed onto the back of the car to shield Jackie Kennedy from gunfire that day. He believes Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, but hopes today's release will put some conspiracy theories to rest.
The real evidence may be interesting to those who are still literate in this country, but for the rest of you, nothing to see here, nothing new to learn. Oswald did it.
Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
And Oswald.
I think if there was something dramatic in there, frankly, word would have gotten out by now.
And the main reason the smoking gun isn't in these documents is because they obviously burn the most incriminating ones.
There's a smoking gun in these JFK files, and I don't think there is. They're in the documents that are still being held back.
The CIA still hasn't released self-damning evidence. Repeated to you again, it's no surprise that it's still Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald did the killing. Oswald. You know, it reminds me of what the great Roman historian Cicero said. What the f*** ever? I read like another 3 pages, like that's what I thought, nothing here.